Hi everyone, this is JB here. And so I just wanted to do in this video a quick run through of how I personally use MyOS in my day-to-day life. So what we're looking at here is obviously our template of the MyOS framework running in Notion. If you guys do want to grab a copy of this, you can go to myos.so or myos.so and you can grab a copy of the template from there. But I'm going to actually go ahead and jump over into this tab that I have, which is MyOS. And this is exactly how I use MyOS in my day-to-day. And so up here at the top, if you haven't seen MyOS before, it really breaks down into 5 core components. We've got our inspiration piece up here at the top, our to-dos, objectives, notes, and learnings. I'll go through kind of each one of these in turn, but to start with my inspirations for the day, and this is what I like looking at when I come into MyOS every single day. I've got a quote up here at the top, and this is one of my favorite quotes. What man is a man that does not make the world better? That kind of helps me set my mental framework for going into the day. My current personal vision and mission are very much around housing. One of the things that I want to work on longer term is fixing housing and the ability to own housing and shared living here inside of the United States. That's where I'm based out of, and so that's one of the things that I want to be focused on. And that vision and mission, those statements again help kind of frame my mental set as I'm going through the day. You can then also see the 5 values that I try and live by: compassion, integrity, fortitude. These are 3 core values that I picked up from my dad. They are very powerful for me. And then the last 2, listen first. For a long time, I always thought that, being the loudest guy in the room was the best way to get ahead. I've found that that's absolutely not true, and that it's actually much more important to listen first. And then my last value here is grit will out. And just, you don't have to be the smartest guy, you don't have to be the strongest guy, but if you can last the longest, then you will outperform 90% of everyone else out there. So those are my kind of core values. As I look down, so again, these are really the other 4 areas. So as we get into our tasks and our to-dos, I have started making a set of to-dos every day to make sure I go and journal. So I've got my AM journal and my PM journal entries in here to just remind myself I got to go and do that every day. This is a new habit that I'm trying to get into. And so I've got a recurring set of to-dos in here to really track these. These are my highlights, so the things that I have to get done today. I also have any open ones, and this is, again, all those different recurring tasks that there are, but highlights are really focused on what do I want to get done today, and I'll show kind of where I do that journaling here in a moment. And then we get into objectives, and objectives are really the core component of MyOS, and really, again, these personal OKRs, and really taking the OKR framework from business and translating this to more of the personal life. And so what I have here are the various different objectives that I'm working on for this quarter. So these are all the ones that are in progress. I'm trying to consolidate my reading list and notes. So there are a couple things that I want to do there. I've made my way through my 2018 notes. I have a bunch of handwritten journals that I'm still keeping, but I want to get all of them into MyOS as well, so I have a digital backup of all of them in case something was to happen to the physical copy. I'm working my way through 2019 and 2020, and then probably next quarter I'll work on my 2021 and 2022 notes. I'm working on improving my knowledge around tokenization. This again is another set of objectives around creating some co-living community spaces. I want to get a new web page up and a new Discord group around that. And then I've got some health-related ones, and you'll notice that all of these objectives are related to these various different categories, and these are what I call the 5 focuses. And so we've got health, creativity, productivity, finance, and community. And so I try and focus on at least one space of each one of those different focuses every single quarter, just to make sure that I'm kind of balancing things out. But as I was saying, from a health perspective, I'm really trying to get, again, those 10 minutes of journaling every single day in the morning and the evening, this is for November and December. And then from a physical health perspective, I'm really working on a cut right now, so I'm trying to get myself down to 165, and I'm using these key results as a way of tracking that. And so for those who aren't familiar with how objectives and key results work, the way that this works is that you have your objective, which is the thing you want to accomplish, And then your key results are the way that you judge progress against that objective. And so the way that this is all structured here inside of Notion, and if you haven't used Notion before, I'll also talk a little bit about Notion at the very end, but you can build this framework using any tool that you want. So in here, we've got a related table of all of our key results. And these are, again, the metrics that you're tracking against. And either you accomplish these or you don't accomplish these by the end of whatever cycle you're tracking against. In my case, it's this quarter. And so making it down to 170, then 168, then 165. Right now, these are all on track for me. And they, as I update the progress here, that will roll up to this objectives progress. And so if I was to change this to say, 100, then we would see the progress up at the top will shift as well. And so if I change this back down to 10, so we'll see now I'm back down to 23. So that's how these things relate to each other. And you can see these are all rolled up to each other. And the nice thing is that when you create a new objective in this framework with the way that we have things set up, is that if I was to create a new one here, it automatically associates with this objective. And so you can see I've got this new key result that is untitled, and it automatically associates with that objective. So you don't have to do any kind of linking up or anything like that. You can keep everything nice and clean, and it'll take care of all that for you. And so then these objectives obviously have some various different statuses to them. So right now, most of mine are on track. I need to focus in some work as we go here into December around my drone pilot license and learning hiragana for my trip to Japan. And so I've got anything that's in to do is not started yet. Anything on progress is either on track, needs work, or is at risk of not being completed. So really needs to focus in. And then the completed statuses are either completed, removed, or missed. I have removed in here because there are going to be some objectives that you start the quarter and you're like, this is definitely a thing I want to do. You get 2 months into the quarter and you're like, this doesn't matter anymore because of some change in the world. And so this way is a way to you don't have to lose all the status or all the data that you have related to it, but you can pull that out and say, yep, I've just removed this on purpose. So those are objectives and the key results that are related to them. Again, this is the core component of MyOS and really powerful. We've done some nice job, I think, setting up the various different relationships in here, so it's pretty easy to use. But this has really helped drive execution for me in my personal life. And so this is kind of the core piece that I wanted to make sure that people are aware of. The other areas in here are notes, and so notes is kind of where you can collect all of your different notes, either short-term or long-term thinking around different ideas. And again, we've got this broken into the 5 focuses, so health, creativity, productivity, finance, and community, and then also just a random bucket in here. There might be things that you're just like, oh yeah, there's this idea that I just need to capture. But the kind of things that I do capture in here, this is actually then linking out to things like my workout plan, my life calendar, recipes that I want to capture, travel plans. So this is where my trip to Japan is being planned, my journal. And so this is where I've started capturing in all my journal entries. And so like for 2020, I've just started going through and getting November's in there. And I've got the various different short journal entries. They don't have to be very long, but really capturing those under notes. And so as you could see there, actually, if I go back, everything in Notion is a database structure. And so it's pages inside of pages, inside of pages, inside of pages. And so you can roll these all the way back up to the top level. And yeah, that's kind of how Notion functions. But then I've also got things like my reading list, what I'm playing right now, any quotes that I found to be very powerful. And these all sit inside of the notes section. So again, just an area to capture things. And then learnings. And this actually, learnings you'll notice is actually sitting here in notes, but I've created a view of it here on the home page. And this is true also of things like the objectives and key results and the to-dos. These are not actually sitting here on the home page. These are views into those databases, and I'll show you where those databases live in a second. But I'm also going through some learning right now related to process mining. That's more related to my full-time work that I'm working on right now. But I do feel that it's important that we have learning sitting here on the homepage because I'm a huge proponent of lifelong learning. And I think it's really important to have that be a visual focus that you can easily get to and easily track. So yeah, and that's really the core overview of how MyOS works and kind of how you can start using it to start tracking things like to-dos and really, again, these objectives and key results. That's the main area here. And then I'll wrap up here by saying there is way down here at the bottom these subpages. And so the way that this structure works is if we look at MyOS is that you'll notice we've got those views that I talked about, and then sitting under the MyOS top level is our objectives. Within objectives is our OKRs and key results. Key results is, again, just a table of all the key results that we have going on here. You don't ever really need to worry about these because, again, working at the objective level, you can create them inside of each one of those cards. And so that way they all relate up successfully. But if you do ever want to find them, it is a database that's sitting under the objectives. And then under here, you also have like your to-dos, notes, and long-term objectives. I'll get into long-term objectives maybe in a different video if people are interested in it, but it's essentially taking objectives, looking out way longer than a quarter. So what are these objectives that I want to cover in years or maybe half a decade or a decade, and then starting to track those as well. Right now, I think most people just should focus on their OKRs and really making sure that they've got that figured out. And then I might do more content around long-term objective as well. So yeah, those are there as well. But you can find all of those also here in the sub pages. But I've got that kind of down at the bottom, hidden away, because most of the time you're not going to need that. So. Well, I hope that was helpful. Again, I've really found this to be useful. This is how I use it. I've got this pinned in Chrome, so I can come into this every single day. I've got this broken out on my iPhone as well into various different sections that I hit up. I might do a separate video on how I've got this. I actually use shortcuts on the iPhone to really frame this up and make it work very similarly. But hope this was helpful, and if there are any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments. Thanks, everyone.